Good morning, America. Today is Wednesday, September the 13th. It is 10:43. We're going to read Psalms 132. It's kind of a long one. It is a anonymous psalm. I will read it from my Bible first, and then we will read it from this other Bible. It is a psalm of God's presence in Zion. A psalm of God's presence in Zion. A song of degrees is called. It has three colors: orange for your faith, gold for prophecy, and red for discipleship. Verse 1. Remember, Lord, remember David and all his afflictions. Lord, remember David and all his afflictions. 2. How he swore unto the Lord and void unto the mighty God of Jacob. 3. Surely I will not come unto the tabernacle of my house, nor go up into my bed. 4. I will not give sleep to my eyes, or slumber to my eyelids. 5. Until I found out a place for the Lord, a habitation for the mighty God of Jacob. 6. Lo, we heard it at Ephraim, we found it in the fields of the wood. 7. We will go into his tabernacle. We will worship at his footstool. 8. Arise, O Lord, unto thy rest, thou in the ark of thy strength. 9. Let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. Let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. 10. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away the face of thy anointed. 11. 11 to 18 is all uppercase lettering also. The Lord has sworn in his truth unto David. He will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. 12. If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon thy throne forevermore. 13. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his habitation. 14. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. 15. I will abundantly bless her provisions. I will satisfy her poor with bread. 16. I will also clothe her priests with salvation, and her saints shall shout aloud for joy. 17. There will I make the horns of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for my anointed. 18. His enemies will I clothe with shame, but upon himself shall his crown flourish. Now let's read it from this Bible. In this Bible, it is called a song of ascent. A song of ascents. O Lord, remember David and all the hardships he endured. 2. He swore an oath to the Lord and made a vow to the mighty one of Jacob. 3. I will not enter my house or go to my bed. 4. I will allow no sleep to my eyes, no slumber to my eyelids. 5. Till I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling for the mighty one of Jacob. 6. We heard it in Esth. We came upon it in the fields of Jar. 7. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. 8. Arise, O Lord, and come to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. 9. May your priests be clothed with righteousness. May your saints sing for joy. 10. For the sake of David, your servant, do not reject your anointed one. 11. The Lord swore an oath to David, a sure oath that he will not revoke. One of your own descendants I will place on your throne. 12. If your sons keep my covenant and the statutes I teach them, then their sons will sit on your throne forever and ever. 13. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling. 14. This is my resting place forever and ever. Here I will sit enthroned. for I have desired it. 15. I will bless her with abundant provisions. Her poor will I satisfy with food. 16. I will clothe her priests with salvation, and her saints will even sing for joy. 17. Here I will make a horn grow for David, and set up a lamp for my anointed one. 18. I will clothe his enemies with shame, but the crown on his head will be replenished. Okay, that's the opening of our study for today. We finished one book, and this is this book here. It is dated Reading the Words of God, September 2011, and we have completed this entire book. Okay, we can put that aside. Now we have this new book, also filled with the words of God. This will be our new guide, and this is December the 22nd, 2014 till August 17th, 2016. Okay, so when I open this book, it says Monday, December the 22nd, 2014. I started at 5:12 p.m. and ended study at 6:12 p.m. At the time, it was called Reading the Words of God. Humiliation is a state of deflated pride. Humiliation is a state of deflated pride. Okay? A. Causes of pride. Esther 6, from 6 to 13, but as you always know, we read the entire chapter. King of Persia, Haman, unintentionally aid Ahasuerus' effort to honor Mordecai. This was totally unexpected. When the king came to Haman, he said, I need to honor someone. How should I go about it? And Haman gave him all these ways that he should come about honoring the man. So he sat up in his bed because he thought the king was speaking of him. But then he says, okay, help me to honor Mordecai. So this is a very interesting book, very interesting story. So we will start this book with Esther 6. Okay, so we're going to be reading it from both Bibles. And you don't need an introduction to Esther because I've given you that once before, and I'm not led to give it to you again today. Esther, in this book, it has 14 verses. It's fairly short, and it is all silver for history. Every word is silver, no uppercase lettering. Haman unintentionally aided Ahasuerus' effort to honor Mordecai. Okay? And we'll be reading it from here as well. Let me flip-flop. I call it flip-flopping. So we will be flip-flopping so that I can make sure you are understanding what is being said. Okay, so we're going to hear about how Haman is quite surprised to find out that the king has not chosen him. Oh, my chair. The king has not chosen him to honor. He has chosen the man that he has even built a tool to behead the man. So let's begin. Haman unintentionally aids Ahasuerus' effort to honor Mordecai. 1. On that night, could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigtanah and Teres, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hands on the king as a horror. So these two were trying to harm the king. And Mordecai had warned the king of their evil intent. So this particular night, the king was unable to rest. Okay, reading it from here. That night the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him, too. It was found recorded that Mordecai had exposed Bindana and Teres, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. God, I have problems with these words, Father. Okay, verse 3. And the king said, "What honor?" He's talking to, he has gone out of his chamber, out of his bed chamber, and has gone over to the bed chamber of Haman. And this is what he says to him. And the king said, "What honor and dignity has been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that minister unto him, "There is nothing done for him." 4. And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman has come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the galleon that he had prepared for him. Okay, let's go here. 3. What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for him, his attendant answered. The king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer courts of the palace to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the galleon he had erected for him. Okay. 5. And the king's servant said unto him, "Behold, Haman standeth in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man who the king delighteth to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "To whom would the king delight to do honor more than myself?" Okay, let's take it here. His attendant answered, "Haman is standing in the court." 5. Bring him in, the king ordered. 6. When Haman entered, the king asked him, "What should be done for the man the king delighteth to honor?" Now Haman thought to himself, "Who is there that the king would rather honor than me?" Let's go back here. 7. And Haman answered the king for the man whom the king delighted to honor. 8. Let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. 9. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, "Thus shall be done to the man who the king delighted to honor." Take it from here. Now, I had said that the man was in his bedchamber, but there was a show called Virtues. And in that particular show, it showed the king coming out of his chamber, going into the chamber of Haman. So I'm believing this is how it's happening in the Bible. Now I'm reading it, and I'm discovering that Haman was not in his bedchamber as it was shown in this animated show for children to teach them about the Bible. So you see how easily something can be misinterpreted and misrepresented. So they should have shown the king in his court, and they should have shown Haman coming into the king's court instead of showing the king in his bed and showing the king walking from his bedchamber, into Haman's bedchamber. And when Haman began to tell the king these words, when Haman answered the king for the man whom the king delighted to honor, Haman, in this animated show for children, sat up in his bed. So now we're reading exactly how it's happening, and we're discovering that he was not in his bed. He was coming into the court of the king. Okay, so let's take it from 7. So he answered the king, for the man the king delighted to honor. 8. Have them bring a royal robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on his head. 9. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them ride the man the king delighted to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man the king delighted to honor!" Exclamation mark. Okay, let's go back here to 10. Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste, hurry up. Make haste and take the apparel and the horse, so thou hast said, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken." So he told the Haman to hurry up and do exactly as you have said to Mordecai, the man that he was intending on talking to the king about hanging him on this new galleon he had just made, especially for Mordecai. Okay, so the king said to Haman, "Make haste, hurry up, and take the apparel on the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken." 11. Then took Haman the apparel, and you can just imagine his facial expression when he said, "Take it to Mordecai." You can just imagine his facial expression and the things in his heart that he was feeling. Jealousy is one. Resentment is another. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man who the king delighteth to honor." Let's take it from here. 10. Go at once, the king commanded Haman. Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. 11. So Haman got the robe and the horse. He robed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city street, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man the king delighteth to honor!" Exclamation mark. 12. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened to his house mourning and having his head covered. He was disgraced. He was disgraced. He was full of resentment. He was full of jealousy. His plans have just shattered right in front of his face. So it does not pay, America, to be prideful, because you never know when the person will honor someone who you do not like. In the same way that God honors people who you do not recognize. Okay? A very good lesson indeed. Because oftentimes we are so prideful, we will come into a ceremony and will sit automatically, without even being told, in the honorable section of the ceremony, just for someone to come in and say, "Please get up. This seat is for this individual. You can sit in the back." That's an embarrassment. So it is better to come in as a guest and sit in the back Okay? And let the person or the guest come to you and say, come, Mr. or Mrs., come and sit in the front with us. It is better than to be shamed like Haman was. Okay? And he was so shamed that he covered his head. All right? And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hastened to his house mourning and having his head covered. All right. Afterwards, Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief. Now, this was a grief that was deep within him, because this man is the same man that he was going to talk to the king about killing him. Okay? So not only was he grieving, he was ashamed. He also had to rethink his evil plans against Mordecai. Okay? 13. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but surely fall before him. That was a warning. That was a warning from his very wise wife. Now let's read it from here. And let me see. 12. Afterward, Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief. 13. And told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. His advisor and his wife, Zeresh, said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of the Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Okay? You cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. Okay? That was a warning. 14. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. So as soon as these words came out of the mouth of his wife and his advisor, the chamberlain came to bring Haman to the banquet that Esther had prepared. Okay? So let's read it from here. 14. While they were still speaking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman away to the banquet Esther has prepared. So this is his last banquet, and he doesn't even realize that this was his last meal. And before the banquet was done, this man was hung on his own gallant that he had prepared for Mordecai. So the moral here is that don't go around digging holes for someone else. Because the hole you dig for someone else, you yourself will fall in it. Be careful what you do, America. If you do anything at all, let all that you do be good and pleasing in the sight of God, and he will bless you indeed. But if what you do is laced with deception, malice, wickedness, and evil, that will fall upon you in the same way that it fell upon Haman. It's a very good lesson to learn. So it's better to be on the good side of the Lord than to be on his bad side. Because what hole you dig for someone else, the Lord will cause you to slip in it. Hope you learned a whole lot from this story. It's a very short story, but a very powerful one indeed. And I have read it from both books, so I am sure that my listeners understand the principle behind this particular story. Thank you very much for joining us here at Spiritual Water. My name is Brenda Guerrero. Enjoy the rest of your day, and may the peace of God be upon you. May the protection of God surround you, and may the will of God come from you. Until the next time, have a beautiful day.